Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the NFL slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Monday Night Football. We're going to look at the two games on Monday night. We got the Steelers and the Giants, and then we got the Titans and the Broncos. Normally we just have one game on Monday night, and normally I would make a video for the showdown slate, but it seems like all the big prize money is going to the two-gamer. I'm pretty sure there's like a $1.5 million contest with like $500K to first or something like that, $300K to first. Can't exactly remember, but got some big contests out there for this two-game slate. I will be breaking down these two games in this video. We'll take a look at each position, as we go. We'll talk through quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, tight ends. We'll even hit on defense, really quickly. But yeah, I hope you guys do enjoy these videos. As always, I appreciate you guys supporting my content. With NFL starting up now, I will be uploading a ton of videos every week. Most likely 3 to 4 NFL videos every week, and I'm still going to get up NBA videos. We do actually have a two-game slate on Tuesday for NBA, so I will for sure be making a video for that slate. I haven't been making videos lately because it's just been showdown slates. It's just been one game a day. But I think when the finals start up in a couple weeks, I will most likely have videos up for the finals because even though it's a showdown slate, there's really big prizes out there for the finals. I know a lot of people will be playing those showdown slates. I will probably be playing them as well. So I'll definitely get back to making NBA videos when the finals start, and I will have a video up for Tuesdays, two-gamer. And, as always, I'm still going to be uploading NFL videos throughout the week, covering the Monday night games, covering the Thursday night game. I'll have my first look video for week 2 going up Monday afternoon. I'll have my final look video for week 2 going up Friday. So a ton of content coming out right now, guys. Would appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button. If you are new here and you've never checked out the channel, definitely hit that subscribe button. Click the notification bell as well, so that way you do get notified every time I upload. And if you want to get more content from me, I do have stuff available on Patreon. That is linked down below in the description. You can check out the Patreon and see all that I have to offer over there. I did change up the tiers and make it to where there's one package available on Patreon, and that gives you access to everything. I am uploading a ton of content on Patreon as well. I'm getting up NBA stuff. Or I haven't been getting up NBA, but I'll definitely have some content up for the two-gamer. I'll have some core plays for that Tuesday slate. I'll have an article for that Tuesday slate. I've still been posting MLB content on Patreon as well. I'll still have NFL stuff, my article, my core plays, all that will be posted on Patreon. So check that out, link down below. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, guys. I hope you guys had a good week 1. Week 1 wasn't too good for me. Definitely could have been better. I really wish I could have capitalized on all the overlay and pulled out a profitable week, but I just made a lot of mistakes in week 1. Didn't play enough Josh Jacobs, had too much Mixon, too much Eckler. Just a lot of other guys I was too overweight on that didn't do well. Guys that kind of crushed, I was underweight on. Just how it goes sometimes. Hopefully I'm looking to bounce back for this two-game slate, can bounce back in week 2. Let's break down this two-gamer. We'll start off at quarterback. So our 4 options here are Big Ben at 7K, Danny Jones at 6K, Ryan Tannehill 5,700, and then Drew Lock for 5,400. So I think for me at quarterback, I'm either going to be paying up to the top for Big Ben or going cheap with Drew Lock at 5,400. Those are really the two guys I like most. Big Ben, whether you think he's a good quarterback or not, when he's healthy, he can be really good for fantasy. He can be a good fantasy QB. We know he has potential to go for 300 plus and multiple touchdowns any week. This is a fantastic matchup. The Giants defense, I don't expect to be good at all this season. Their secondary and their pass defense overall was not good at all last season. I like this spot a lot for Big Ben, and like I said, when he's healthy, he can be really good for DFS. He has upside. He's got some weapons in the Steelers offense. Juju, Deontay Johnson, James Conner. They picked up Eric Ebron. I like Big Ben quite a bit at 7K. He's the guy I want to try and pay up for on this slate. On Yahoo, he is the most expensive quarterback over there at $30, but their pricing is so soft on Yahoo. You can very easily almost just play whoever you want. You can pay up for Big Ben, you can pay up for Connor, Saquon, Derrick Henry. You can get all 3 of those guys into your lineup on Yahoo. Still get in some good receivers as well. Definitely going to be paying up for Big Ben on Yahoo just with how soft the pricing is. It's just so easy to get him in. On DraftKings, I still like him a lot at 7K as well. As a cheap option, I think Drew Lock does make some sense at 5,400. Drew Lock did show some upside when he would get starts last season. He got his first start in Week 13. I'm pretty sure Joe Flacco, was starting pretty much the major part of the season, the first 12 weeks. And then Drew Lock came in Week 13. I'm pretty sure they just decided to go with Drew Lock, give the young guys some time. Denver really didn't have anything to play for later on in the season last year. I mean, Drew Lock is a guy, does have some upside, can be a decent QB. He's only 5,400 on this two-gamer. He's a guy that I think does, kind of break out this year and have a much better, year overall, or is a breakout candidate in general now that he's going to be their starting quarterback from week 1 and, rest of the season. And like I said, it's a two-game slate. The other options I don't feel too good about, Daniel Jones, although I do like some Giants guys today, like it's a tough spot for Daniel Jones against probably one of the best defenses in the NFL, in the Steelers. And then Ryan Tannehill in Denver, on the road. I don't know if this is a spot where I really want to go to Ryan Tannehill. He showed upside last season, but I think we're going to see some regression coming his way. Tennessee is already a team that we know just wants to hand the ball off to Derrick Henry every play. So yeah, for me, I'm either going to be paying up to the top for Big Ben at 7K or going to Drew Lock as a value at 5,400. Sure, you could go to Daniel Jones or Tannehill just because it's a two-game slate, and I do expect those two guys to be somewhat low-owned. But I like Big Ben. I like Drew Lock. That's where I'm really, going to be looking to at quarterback. Now at running back, this isn't a position where I want to get too cute. I just want to pay it for the top guys here. Just try and find a way to fit them in. We got Saquon at 8K, Derrick Henry 7,500, James Conner 6,400. In my opinion, these are clearly the top 3 running backs on the slate. I think you want at least 2 of these 3 guys. If not, just jamming in all 3 of them. We'll start off with Saquon at the top. Saquon for me is a guy I want to try and build around on this two-gamer. I know it's not the best spot against Pittsburgh. They have a really good defense, but Saquon just gets so much volume. His workload is so secure. We know he's going to get anywhere from 15 to 20 carries. Most likely going to get, 3 to 5 targets, potentially even more if, the Giants are playing from behind, which is very possible here. I like Saquon a lot at 8K. I know he's the most expensive running back, but he's just one of the best running backs in fantasy, in my opinion. When it comes to DFS and fantasy in general, he was drafted, first few picks in most fantasy drafts, going 2nd overall, 3rd overall for a good reason. Just gets a massive workload. The Giants' offense runs around Saquon. I like him a lot at 8K on Draftkings. On Yahoo, he's clearly the top running back over there. He's actually coming in cheaper than Derrick Henry. On Yahoo, he's coming in $4 cheaper, so definitely want to build around Saquon on Yahoo as well. Now, between Henry or Conner, I think both guys are obviously great plays on a short slate like this. But I think I'm going to prefer the savings and go with James Conner. I like the matchup a lot for James Conner. We talked about this Giants defense. I don't expect them to be very good this season. Didn't have a good defense overall last season, and you wouldn't expect much to change here. Conner is a guy that has showed upside in the past. I know he didn't have the best year last year, but now the Steelers are getting back Big Ben. Their offense, like I said earlier, they have some weapons. Big Ben has some weapons to work with. We saw when Conner, would make starts in place of Le'Veon a couple years ago when Le'Veon was still on the Steelers. Conner showed upside whenever he would, get time whenever Le'Veon was out. I know Le'Veon missed a few games, I think 2 or 3 years ago when he was still on the team. And we saw James Conner just go out there and crush. Could be a guy that, gets you 13, 15 carries, can get work in the passing game. We've seen games where he gets, 5, 6, 7 targets. The Steelers have already come out and said that he's going to be their bell cow running back. Like, he's going to get all the volume this season, which makes him, a guy that definitely has potential to be, in my opinion, probably a top 10 running back in fantasy this year. I like him a lot here at 6,400. I think he's definitely underpriced. Henry's a great play. Henry is expensive, though. He's 7,500. You could still get in, these top 3 guys pretty easily. You may have to pay down a quarterback. Like, if you want to get Barkley, Henry, and Conner into your lineup, you might have to drop down from Big Ben to Drew Lock. But I really have no problem doing that. Conner's a guy that I like a lot here. Want to try and find a way to fit him in. I would like to try and get in Henry as well if I can. But on Yahoo, I think, Conner looks like a great play there as well. Like I said earlier, the pricing is so soft on Yahoo. You could still fit in Derrick Henry into this build. You can easily build around Henry, Barkley, and Conner. Those are the 3 guys I want to build around. I don't really want to try and play the roulette wheel with Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay. Like, are their carries going to be split 50-50? Is Gordon going to get maybe a few more touches? Is it going to be a 60-40 split? Like, we don't really know here. Phillip Lindsay is going to be involved in this offense. Melvin Gordon's obviously going to be involved as well. Like, we don't really have workload concerns when it comes to Barkley, when it comes to Derrick Henry, when it comes to James Conner. We know those guys are going to be bell cow running backs, get a very large majority of the touches, whereas Gordon and Lindsay, it's going to be a 50-50 split, if not a 60-40 split. I just don't want to, take the gamble with those guys. I'm just going to try and jam in these expensive running backs, especially because we're about to talk about receiver. There is some value that I like at receiver on this slate. So really just want to pay up at running back in general. But receiver, we got some value here we'll touch on in a second. Before we do, though, we'll start off at the top. You got Juju, most expensive option on DraftKings, $7,200. So Juju is another guy that I think is a big breakout candidate this year. Did not have a great year last year, but was dealing with quarterback issues the whole season. I mean, he had Mason Rudolph, he had Devlin Hodges throwing him the ball. Only got Big Ben for 2 games, and I think Big Ben got hurt in that second game. But he did play 1 game last year with Big Ben. It was a brutal matchup against the Patriots. He got 8 targets, 6 catches, 78 yards. We know Juju is going to be targeted a ton by Ben. I know he's expensive at $7,200, but he's clearly one of the highest upside plays at receiver. It may be tough to get him in. I think I would prefer the expensive running backs over Juju. So like Derrick Henry at a similar price, I would probably rather play Henry. I'd rather drop down to Connor for cheaper. If I can find the salary, I would probably rather get up to Barkley. So Juju, I don't know how much I'll get to him on DraftKings because I'm, trying to get those expensive running backs in. But on Yahoo, it is very easy to build around him. The pricing is so soft over there. He's only $22, which is not expensive at all. You can very easily get to Juju on Yahoo. You plug in these 4 guys, as you can see, and that still leaves you $19 remaining per player. You could very easily get in Derrick Henry, get in a couple decent receivers. Only thing you might have to do, though, is go cheap at defense, which I never have a problem doing. I'm always fine to go cheap at defense just because defense is such a vulnerable position. So really easy to get to Juju on Yahoo. I like him a lot there. On DraftKings, it's a bit tougher. I still think he's a good play, but probably Yahoo's going to be where I get my most exposure to him. A.J. Brown as well. Probably a guy that I'll get more exposure to on Yahoo just with how soft the pricing is. At $6K on DraftKings, I don't think I'm going to be paying up for him that much on DK, especially if I'm only playing one lineup. I don't think A.J. Brown finds his way into my one lineup. Sure, he has upside. He showed some upside last season, but he's not a very high-volume receiver. Tennessee in general, not a team that wants to throw the ball much. They want to just run the ball with Derrick Henry every single play, like I said. Brown had some games where he would show, upside and get good targets. Like he got 13 targets against Houston, but I'm pretty sure they were playing from behind a lot in that game. Got 7 targets against the Raiders. Like in the playoffs, 6 targets, 3 targets, 1 target. Like his target volume is not as secure as someone like Juju. Even some of these cheaper receivers, I think, get just as much volume as Brown. Now, sure, Brown may have more upside overall. He may just be a more talented receiver than some of the guys we're going to talk about that are cheaper. But for me, volume is what's king in DFS. When I'm looking for receivers, I want guys that are going to get targets. And we can find guys that are going to get similar volume to A.J. Brown that are way cheaper. Like Sterling Shepard, someone I like a lot for $5,200. He showed a lot of upside last season, a guy that was consistently just getting good volume. Obviously, with Odell Beckham no longer on the Giants, Sterling Shepard obviously benefited from that. You look at the targets. Literally, his lowest target game was 6. 6 targets at least every game last season. Most likely getting anywhere from 7 to 10 just about every week. Now, I know Pittsburgh has a really good defense. They have some decent corners as well. But still, it's a 2-game slate. We really can't get too picky. I like Sterling Shepard quite a bit at $5,200, especially on DraftKings where it's full PPR scoring. He does usually catch 5 to 6 balls, so he gives you a pretty high floor with the PPR scoring. I think he should be priced up there with someone like A.J. Brown. We're definitely getting a discount on Sterling Shepard, so I like him a lot at his DraftKings price. On Yahoo, he is really, really cheap over there. He's coming in cheaper than guys like Deontay Johnson, who I still like too, but he's cheaper than Golden Tate. Jerry Jeudy, a guy I also like as well, but he's cheaper than Jeudy. Definitely like me some Sterling Shepard on Yahoo at $14. You don't really have to play him because you can literally just play the most expensive player at every position. I'll just show you guys. You can play Big Ben, jam in all 3 of these running backs, jam in the top 3 receivers. All you have to do is play a cheap defense, and you still have $13 remaining for tight end, so you could play Eric Ebron. Or if you wanted to, you could jam in, or you could get to Ingram and then downgrade from Sutton or Brown. But that just shows you the pricing on Yahoo really just so soft today. You can literally just play whoever you want. So you don't really have to go cheap with Sterling Shepard, but I still like him at his Yahoo price at $14. I think it makes some sense to leave some salary on the table. If you're playing tournaments on this 2-game slate, definitely leave salary on the table. That'll just give you a more contrarian lineup, makes it more likely that someone doesn't have the same lineup as you if you leave some salary on the table. So I would recommend doing that in tournaments for sure. Cash games, just play the highest projected guys. So if you have $18 left, I'd probably just play A.J. Brown over Shepard. But in a tournament, maybe you play Shepard for $4 less and just leave the salary on the table and hope Shepard outscores Brown, which could easily happen in my opinion. So definitely like Shepard here. Like him on Yahoo at his really cheap price of $14. I think he still looks pretty good on DraftKings as well at $5,200. Golden Tate is questionable for this game. There are two pretty big questionable marks we're going to have to watch heading into this game. Courtland Sutton, a guy we don't really know if he's going to play or not. I saw a report where he needs to be able to do 10 jumping jacks, and that's going to be how they determine if he can play. So I don't know. We'll have to see here. If he's out, we'll talk about a guy like Jerry Jeudy, who I would really, really like. But Golden Tate-wise, if Golden Tate sits, that's a boost for Shepard, and that's a boost for Slayton, a boost for Evan Ingram as well. For me, though, between the Giants receivers, between Shepard, Slayton, and Tate, I think I do prefer Shepard the most. He's probably the guy I feel safest in, the guy that I like most, the guy that I just think gets the most targets. But Darius Slayton did show some upside last season. Doesn't have as high of a target floor as Sterling Shepard, just in my opinion, but has big playability, showed that last season. I still would prefer Sterling Shepard. Tate for $4,700, he's really cheap on DraftKings. He was another guy, did give you a pretty high target floor last season. It's to be determined, though, if he plays here. I'm pretty sure he was limited in practice all week, so very possible that even if he does play, maybe he's limited, which does make him a risky option. But on a 2-game slate, I'd be totally fine taking the risk because he's going to come in low owned. If people are scared to go there, anytime guys are questionable and going into a slate, they're usually always going to be low owned. I expect that to be the case with both Tate and Sutton, two guys who could target for low ownership. But for the Giants receivers, the three guys I like, or the three guys I'm targeting, or between the three guys, the one that I'm targeting the most would be Sterling Shepard at $5,200. But let's hit on the value that I like here. We'll start off with both Deontay Johnson and Jerry Jeudy. I think both these two guys look like really good values on DraftKings. Deontay Johnson coming in at $4,400. I think this is kind of, a pricing error. He should be priced up a little bit more than this. This was a guy that showed big-time upside last season, even with, Devlin Hodges and Mason Rudolph at quarterback. He was still posting up big games almost every week, getting consistent volume, anywhere from 6 to 9 targets every week. Now that they have Big Ben, now that Big Ben's back, Deontay Johnson is another breakout candidate this season, a guy that could just have a big year. We could see him really thrive in this offense as their number 2 receiver behind Juju. Even when Antonio Brown was on this team and Juju was the number 2 receiver, Juju would have some big games and would just have a big year overall. I think that could be the case here with Deontay Johnson. I like the matchup a lot. The Giants secondary, the Giants defense overall, I'm not very concerned with. So $4,400, Deontay Johnson as a value. For sure think he's too cheap on DraftKings. We'll definitely be stacking him up with Big Ben. And then Jerry Jeudy, another guy that I like, only $4,200 on DK. I think this is probably a misprice as well. What is he going to do in his first NFL game? I guess we'll have to see, but this guy showed so much upside in college when he was at Alabama. A great route runner, a ton of speed. He's going to be their number 2 receiver if Courtland Sutton's healthy. If Courtland Sutton does not play, though, Jerry Jeudy will operate as the number 1 receiver and should be a good lock for probably at least 6 to 7 targets if I had to guess, maybe even more if Sutton winds up out. This is just a high upside receiver, a guy with, like I said, great speed. He was a great receiver in college. I wouldn't expect much to change at the NFL level. He's a guy that can get open, that can win, one-on-ones. I like him a lot at $4,200. I just think he's too cheap on DraftKings. Even though he's making his NFL debut and there may be some question marks here, I'm always high on these rookies, in their first starts. Henry Ruggs was a guy I liked a lot on Sunday, and although that didn't really work out, he did get injured in that game, which kind of sucks. Ruggs was a guy that I liked a lot. I'm going to be pretty high on a guy like Cam Akers once we see him, kind of take over that role as the Rams running back. I know it's not going to happen yet, but he should eventually be their workhorse back later on in the season. I'm going to be very high on him. These rookies, even though they're, it's their first NFL start, they still are guys with a ton of upside. I like the matchup as well. Tennessee secondary, not one I'm too concerned with. I don't think they really have any elite shutdown corners that we should be too worried about. So for $4,200, especially since I want to try and pep at running back, I need to find some cheap receivers. Jerry Jeudy, a guy that I do like a lot as a value at $4,200. Like I said earlier, if Courtland Sutton, who's questionable, if he winds up sitting, I think that would be a boost for Jeudy, who should get, probably the most targets on the team if I had to guess. And then other values, James Washington, what will he do as their number 3 receiver? Hard to tell. Tim Patrick could actually be viable if Courtland Sutton winds up out, because he would step into that number 2 role, would get a lot of snaps, should get a decent amount of volume as well, and he's only $3,700. Corey Davis is questionable as well for the Titans. He Yeah, looks like it's a hamstring injury. We'll have to see. He practiced in full on both Friday and Saturday, so yeah, I don't think that's too much of a concern. Most likely he will play if he practiced in full. But the big question marks are definitely Tate and Sutton. If Sutton winds up out, I like Judy. I like Patrick as a cheap option. That'll be a little bit of a boost for Noah Fant as well. And if Tate winds up out, Shepard gets a boost, Slayton gets a boost, and then at tight end, Evan Ingram will get a slight bump up as well. But I really don't want to play like any of these cheap 3K receivers. None of these guys are just going to get – they're just not going to get enough volume. Sure, they could break a long play or something, and, you get lucky there. But for me, if I'm going cheap, I like Deontay Johnson. I like Jerry Jeudy. Tim Patrick is in play as well if Sutton winds up out. But that's it for me at receiver. Let's hit on tight end now. Tight end, I think, is kind of a straightforward position. I just want to try and get to Evan Ingram if I can. I know it's a brutal matchup against the Steelers. A very good defense overall. I'm pretty sure they were really good against tight ends last season as well. I'm not exactly sure on that, but I think they were pretty good against tight ends. I mean, they just have a really good defense overall, so it's not a good spot for Evan Ingram. But on a 2-game slate, we really can't get too picky, and in my opinion, Evan Ingram is by far the highest upside floor and ceiling play at tight end. If you're not going to Ingram, you're either playing Noah Fant, Eric Ebron, or Jonnu Smith, one of those other three guys. Fant, I think, does have upside here. I would like him a little bit more if Sutton were to wind up out. Fant was not, in terms of target, volume, you never knew what you're going to get from him. Had big playability, but was not getting consistent volume. About 3 to 4 targets every week. They've talked about, how they want to, use him more in the offense. I think they're going to line him up in the slot a lot. He's definitely a guy that could have a breakout year for sure. Eric Ebron, with the Steelers offense, how will he be involved? Big Ben, he'll find a ways to get his guys the ball. Big Ben's a guy I'm pretty high on as a QB overall. Like when Big Ben's just, or any receiver for Big Ben, I'm pretty high on because he just finds ways to get his guys the ball. I'm sure Ebron's going to get some looks here. 4,300, could get obviously some red zone looks, could catch you a touchdown. I like the matchup against the Giants. Obviously that Giants secondary is so bad, but for me, I just want to try and get to Evan Ingram if I can. I just think he's the safest play and the highest upside play. He's just such a good tight end overall, has so much upside. He was one of the top drafted tight ends in fantasy this year for a good reason. Even with, the Giants not having the best offense overall last season, Evan Ingram still had a really good year, consistently putting up, big games, had a really, hot start to the season, and then kind of cooled down later on in the second half, before he eventually got hurt. But when this guy's healthy, man, he can be a top tight end in the league. Obviously, he's a great receiver, was getting tons of targets last season. I wouldn't expect much to change this season. I like Evan Ingram a lot, man. I just want to try and find a way to get him in. It shouldn't be too hard, especially, if you build around these 5 guys right here on DK, you still have 5K remaining per player. You plug in a cheap defense, you can easily get to Evan Ingram. Might still even be able to get to Derrick Henry as well. Not exactly sure there, but yeah, I like Evan Ingram the most. Yahoo, I'm just going to be jamming in Evan Ingram. Fant's $16. He's a dollar less. If you wanted to make that pivot in tournaments, I know Ingram's going to be pretty high owned on Yahoo, so if you wanted to pivot to Fant as a way to make your lineup contrarian, sure, go ahead. But for me, I'm just going to be jamming in Evan Ingram at the position. He's my favorite play at tight end. And then defense-wise, defense, never a position where I have really any hot takes. Defense, I just kind of play whatever defense fits into my lineup. It's just such a high variance position to begin with. The Giants defense could outscore the Steelers defense today, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. Sure, the Steelers are in the best spot by far because the Giants, probably have the worst offense out of all these teams. They definitely will turn the ball over. Daniel Jones will turn the ball over. I just don't know if I want to pay $3,700 for a defense on a 2-game slate. Like, I would rather just punt, go cheaper with the Broncos or something. The Broncos against the Titans. I know the Titans don't throw the ball much, so that kind of limits their, the turnover potential. But right now, I think the Titans do have a pretty low implied team total. I think it's one of the lowest on the slate. This game right now does have the lowest total at 41. I'm not sure what their team total is. It looks like Denver is favored, or Denver's 3-point dogs, so that would mean their team total is, if I can do the math in my head, this is a little bit tougher than I thought it would be. Team total is 21, I think. I'm not exactly sure there, but yeah, I don't really see any defenses that stand out head and shoulder above the rest. I think the Broncos for 2,800 as the cheaper defense, they'll probably be the ones that I use the most. But really, for me, I'm just going to build out my lineups, and whatever defense fits, that's the one I'll plug in, whether it's the Giants or the Broncos. Probably won't play the Giants much just because I don't think there's a ton of upside for them. Plus, I like a lot of Steelers. Like I like Big Ben, Connor, Deontay Johnson, Juju. I don't really want to play, 4 Steelers and then have the Giants defense. I don't think that's too optimal on a 2-game slate. I don't mind playing like 2 guys against my defense, though, on a 2-game slate. So, yeah, I think probably the Broncos is probably my favorite defense. Yahoo, I'll be going cheap here defense. Like, there's no chance I'm paying $20 for the Steelers. I'll just punt the position, play the Broncos at $11. You play them in this build, and that's going to allow you to get into Derrick Henry. That's going to allow you to play Evan Ingram. That's the way I'm going to be going on Yahoo at least. So that's kind of what I'm seeing for this 2-game slate, guys. 2-gamer should be a little bit of fun. I definitely prefer these over showdown slates. I'd rather play a 2-game slate than a showdown slate, I think. I love, football season's obviously the best season overall. Even though it's a 2-game slate, I'm still going to be pretty heavily invested in this. I'm going to be watching both these games. Football is just such an awesome sport, man, to sweat, to play DFS for, to build out lineups. There's nothing better than football season. I'm so excited for this season. Even though I didn't have the best week 1, I'm definitely going to be bouncing back in week 2. I'm just so excited to be putting out NFL content every week, putting up 3 to 4 videos a week for you guys. Gonna have a ton of content coming out on the channel. Definitely would appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button and be sure to click that notification bell as well. So that way you do get notified every time I upload. And if you have not yet, guys, if you want to check out more content that I have to offer, that is linked down below in the description. You can find that over on Patreon. I will have core plays posted for the week 2 slate. My article will be posted for the week 2 slate. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to have core plays for this 2-gamer. I might post some because I will be playing, obviously. But I'll still, be posting MLB content over on Patreon. I'll have my articles posted Monday through Friday over there. I'll still be giving out MLB core plays as well. And, NBA, we do have a 2-game slate on Tuesday, so I'll get back to, I'll have a video up for that 2-gamer. I'll have my article posted for that 2-game slate as well. I will have some core plays on Patreon, and I made it to where now there's only 1 tier available on Patreon. It just gives you access to everything. I'm posting a ton of content over there for, all sports. So I want to make, all the sports available for everyone. So it's just one tier on Patreon, only $20. It gives you access to all my content for every sport. Definitely check it out. It is linked down below in the description. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I really do appreciate you watching. Best of luck on this 2-game slate, guys. I will have my first look video out for week 2. That'll be going up Monday afternoon. So be sure to check that out. And yeah, best of luck tonight, guys. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Peace.